Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Metabolism and Menopause podcast. My name is Stephanie, and I'm your host and CEO of Vitality OET. We are a women's nutrition, health, and fitness company that focuses predominantly on women's hormones, particularly as they start going through perimenopause and onwards. We know that you start experiencing so many changes in this time of your life, whether it be hot flashes, night sweats, irritability, brain fog, or weight gain around the middle that seems to have come out of absolutely nowhere, despite you not changing anything. So you go back to those tried and true methods of cutting calories, cutting carbs, doing a bunch of cardio, yet it feels like nothing is working. In fact, you're putting in all this effort and it feels like you're just moving backwards. But we know now that your body is inherently different now that you've gone through these hormonal changes. So our mission here at Vitality is to really help you understand how your body changes in this time of your life, so you can reach those health and fitness goals, feel in control and at home in your body again, live a life full of vitality, and really understand how to take care of this new body of yours. So today, I want to talk all about neurotransmitters and how they affect your cravings and appetite in perimenopause and menopause and the years that follow. We did a whole episode on how neurotransmitters affect your mood. So if you're interested on that portion of stuff, you can absolutely go back and listen to the podcast I did with Coach Chelsea. But today I'm going to tackle how they affect cravings. So I know many of you are like, oh, I'm trying to eat so good, but then menopause has started to make cravings feel more intense. And you feel like maybe it's just you're not trying hard enough, but it seems like no matter how hard you try and all this willpower that you have, you just can't do it, right? Like you're go, and you get home and boom, you start making dinner. And then the next thing you know, you've eaten everything in your pantry. And then you give yourself such a hard time about this. And you're like, tomorrow I will do better. And then it happens again. And it happens again. And it happens again. And you're like, what the heck? This never used to happen to me. What is going on? Well, there's neurotransmitters here. We talked a little bit about cravings and hormones in the past. So I'm going to briefly touch on the hormones and how they change during perimenopause and menopause and how it affects your cravings with those. And then we're going to navigate into neurotransmitters. Then we're going to talk about the cycle of how these affect your inability to break that cycle. And then tactical tips to improve each neurotransmitter and your ability to really break that cycle to set you up for success so you're not struggling with this anymore. So first of all, let's acknowledge estrogen. We know she is so important. She plays so many crucial roles in our body, not just for reproduction, but it helps regulate our metabolism. It helps support our blood sugar, our bones, our muscle mass, our sleep, our energy, metabolism. So many things. And when she starts to decline, unfortunately, we start to see metabolism starts to slow down. Our body's not so good at burning calories. We also start to struggle with blood sugar. We become more insulin resistant, and that leads to more blood sugar spikes and drops. When the blood sugar drops, we have a lack of energy. We start having cravings, and then the cycle continues if you can give into those cravings, right? The donuts, we know it's going to spike our blood sugar, and it just goes on and on all day, right? But also, estrogen plays a very big role in our appetite and satiety. So we find when estrogen levels decline that we are hungry, right? And also foods just aren't as satisfying anymore. So you have the thing that you're craving, then you're like, that didn't really do it for me. And then you start looking for something else, right? And obviously all those things combined are going to make weight management quite challenging. Then we have high androgens. So this is very important for women with PCOS, because with PCOS, we typically see women are struggling with higher androgen levels. And what happens at higher androgen levels is we struggle with blood sugar control again. So if estrogen is low also, progesterone is low also, we see androgens go up. We have even more issues with blood sugar control, the energy crashes, the cravings. But we also see that with the androgens and the blood sugar control, we also just in general see heightened levels of appetite, and progesterone helps keep our androgens in check. So just by going through perimenopause, you're at a higher risk of seeing androgens go up. Then we have low testosterone, which I cannot tell you how freaking common this is now. I cannot believe the number of women who come into our coaching program who do their Dutch test, they get their hormone testing, and they have low testosterone levels. And we know that low testosterone is usually associated with a lower metabolism, so body not so good at burning calories, making weight gain easy and weight loss hard. We also see a harder time building and maintaining muscle mass, especially when that's paired with estrogen. We struggle with blood sugars even more. So if you have high androgens, low testosterone, low estrogen, that's a lot of things favoring blood sugar issues, which is going to lead to more cravings for sure and energy crashes, right? And then we have good old cortisol, because when estrogen declines, our cortisol levels can go up a lot easier. So before we could handle a 9 out of 10 before we saw cortisol go up. Now it's only a 5 out of 10 before cortisol goes up. So before you could handle your dog pooping on the floor, your kids driving you crazy, having a poor night's sleep, deadlines at work, grief and taking care of sick parents, and then you getting sick as well, and then the daycare calls and you got to go pick up your kids, and all the crazy things that we go on, plus under eating and over exercising and avoiding carbs. All those things are going to elevate our cortisol levels even more. So even though you didn't change anything, now you're struggling with all these symptoms and weight gain and appetite, because what you used to be able to handle, you can't anymore, because internally you don't have the estrogen to support that. So we also see when cortisol goes up, we struggle with hormone production. So estrogen and progesterone can go down even quicker, right? Leading to more issues. Worse blood sugar control, which we're already struggling with if we have low estrogen, high androgens, low testosterone, right? We see that thyroid function gets worse. So our metabolism slows down because of that. More gut health issues like IBS and more bloating. We start seeing our liver health will take a hit. Our energy gets worse. Our sleep gets worse. We lose muscle mass, and all those things make more inflammation. We see worse blood sugar control, more fat storage, and inability to be able to burn fat as effectively, but also crazy intense cravings. So that alone is going to make things challenging. So now let's talk about the neurotransmitters. We have 3 that I want to talk about, which are serotonin, dopamine, and GABA. And neurotransmitters are really just chemical messengers in your brain that help regulate your mood, which I talked about with Coach Chelsea on a previous podcast, and then your appetite and cravings, which we're going to tackle here. Okay, so during menopause, hormonal changes are going to disrupt the balance of these neurotransmitters right at the cellular level. And that's going to directly impact how your brain is going to perceive and regulate hunger and satisfaction from those foods. So let's tackle serotonin first. And we're going to talk about mood and satiety here. So serotonin is often called our feel-good hormone. It's what helps regulate our mood. It helps support our sleep, our appetite, and actually plays a very key role in feeling full. Okay. Estrogen usually helps boost our serotonin levels, so we feel happier more often, which is great, right? It helps this by it helps support serotonin production by promoting the synthesis of tryptophan, which is a protein amino acid, which we need in order to be able to even produce serotonin. So tryptophan is almost like the flour to make the cookies. If you don't have enough flour, you can't make as many cookies, right? So, and then we also see that increases serotonin receptor sensitivity. So if you have good serotonin receptor sensitivity, you have 1 cookie and you feel great. If receptor sensitivity is low, you need like 10 cookies to feel great. And then you're probably not going to feel great afterwards, right? So when we go through perimenopause and menopause and we see a decrease in our estrogen levels, serotonin production starts going down. So less cookies. This can lead to feelings of irritability, more depressive type symptoms, just low mood in general, but also an increased cravings for very highly palatable carbs in particular. So we're not talking like, oh, I'm craving a potato, oh, I'm craving some rice. No, you're craving like donuts and cupcakes and chocolate, right? So what happens is those types of foods will increase serotonin very briefly, and then elevate your mood again very briefly. You won't feel good afterwards though, right? So you're going to have cravings just because of low serotonin due to low estrogen. Then we have dopamine. So dopamine is the neurotransmitter that's associated with rewards and motivation. It regulates your brain pleasure and reward center, which directly is going to impact how we experience cravings and the satisfaction that we get from our food. Okay, so estrogen helps promote dopamine activity as well, just like it does for serotonin, specifically in the areas of the brain that are related to reward and pleasure, and helps keep those cravings in check. We don't need as much dopamine to like feel good. Okay. When estrogen starts to decline, we can see a decline in our dopamine production. So again, we're not seeing as much produced and the receptor sensitivity isn't as good. So we're not having as much produced and we need even more to feel the effects. So this shift is often going to cause an increase in reward-seeking behaviors, such as cravings for highly palatable foods, like sweets or high-fat foods. This is like your potato chips, okay? Women might find themselves drawn to those foods in an attempt to stimulate dopamine release, seeking that feel-good reward feeling that dopamine provides us with, and it can very easily lead to overeating and craving cycles. And then we have GABA. GABA is an inhibitory neurotransmitter. It helps reduce excitability of our nervous system, so it keeps us relaxed. It's partially what helps keep us in that rest and digest portion of our nervous system. Lower heart rate, lower breathing rate, stress is reduced, right? And this time, it's not estrogen that's involved here. It's actually progesterone. Progesterone naturally is going to increase GABA. This is why progesterone is associated with better sleep and like more stable mood and more relaxed, because it helps enhance the activity of GABA receptors in our brain. And it also helps create that calming effect that I just talked about. So by helping modulate GABA, it counterbalances the excitability neurotransmitters that can induce anxiety or even stress. Then, as our progesterone levels start to go down during perimenopause in the years that follow, GABA activity also starts to go down. And lower GABA can lead to increased anxiety, restlessness, and stress, and poor sleep, actually, which often drives cravings for comfort foods, typically those that are high in sugar and fat, like chocolate, for example. And it's almost like a way for us to self-soothe and counterbalance those anxious feelings that we get from the low GABA, from the low progesterone. And those craving mechanisms links our nervous system's need for calm with the need for satisfaction from food. So it's like, oh, I need to feel calm. I'm very anxious. How do I get GABA up so I feel calm? You reach for the chocolate and then you feel good. And so that's being wired in your brain of like, oh, when I feel anxious, the way to feel calm is to have chocolate, which we know is probably not that great for us, right? So at the cellular level, we see that hormonal changes are really going to influence these neurotransmitters, like their ability to be produced, receptor sensitivity, and overall the communication between the brain in several ways. So the first thing that we see during this transition is that we have reduced neurotransmitter synthesis and receptor sensitivity. So this is the whole, we don't have enough flour to make the cookies, but then we also need 5 cookies instead of 1 cookie to make us feel good. So estrogen and progesterone are going to influence the enzymes required for production of neurotransmitters. So how much flour there's going to be. And that's very key for serotonin and dopamine in particular. So when hormone levels start to go down, they become less active, and there's less of the serotonin and less of the dopamine in general. So we just don't feel as good. We don't feel as rewarded, and we don't feel as like calm and happy and stable mood. Then with the receptor sensitivity, we know that hormones also are going to affect that. So declining estrogen, for example, makes serotonin and dopamine receptors less sensitive, meaning that even when there is serotonin and dopamine in our body might not fully experience that effect. So this reduction in sensitivity results in heightened need for external sources. We're looking for more to get that good feeling again. Okay, so this can further drive those cravings. Then we also see an altered brain-body communication, which is super interesting. So we see the hypothalamus is a very important part of our brain. It is in charge of so many things, and hunger and satiety are just one of those things. And in that center in our brain, it is directly affected by our estrogen and progesterone. So as those hormones start to decline, we see there is disrupted regulation of our hunger signals. Okay. We also see that stress and cortisol, of course, I'm going to bring this into this topic of conversation, is also going to have a massive influence on this as well. Okay. So when there's a decline in estrogen and progesterone, we see that it is much easier for cortisol to be high. Okay. And we know that elevated cortisol levels can further disrupt your neurotransmitter balance, often reducing your serotonin and dopamine levels while increasing cravings for high energy foods like donuts and chocolate and cookies and cupcakes and icing and ice cream, all those things as a way to get a quick energy source. Because when we have cortisol levels that are high, our body is perceiving that we're in danger. We need to fight the bear or run away from the bear. So our body wants that quick hit of energy, as well as the dopamine and serotonin. We're trying to make ourselves feel better. We're trying to comfort ourselves, right? So that can lead to more cravings too. And then we also see a change in our gut-brain axis and neurotransmitter production. And this is massive because we know the gut microbiome and our gut in general is where the majority of our serotonin is produced. So when we see estrogen decline, we see a massive shift in our gut microbiome. This happens a lot. This is why so many women struggle with the bloating and food sensitivities and things like that once they transition to perimenopause and menopause. So now our serotonin can't be produced as much because we aren't as effective in our gut anymore. And then that can make mood swings so much worse, cravings so much worse. Your appetite can get dysregulated as well, all just because of estrogen changing in your gut microbiome. Plus, we see more gut inflammation because when estrogen declines, we have more inflammation in our body. So hormonal changes are going to lead to more gut inflammation, which again is going to impact the ability to produce serotonin even more. And the communication between the gut and the brain is going to be impacted as well. And we know the gut-brain communication pathway is responsible for so many things, like our mood and things like that, which we didn't realize. Like, we're learning new things literally every day. It's such a massive area of research. So this can also increase your cravings. It can also affect your mood. And then it can also lead to like a cyclical impact on our appetite control, which I'm going to talk about in like literally 30 seconds here. So now let's talk about how to break this cycle a little bit or understand the cycle a bit better so then we can break it. But also you need to know the difference between stress eating and true hunger. So emotional hunger and like stress eating is defined by emotional hunger as a quick, almost like urgent craving for a very specific food, often in response to stress or an emotional situation, right? Whereas physical hunger is like a hunger that gradually builds up and it's not based on a specific food. It's not like, oh, I need ice cream. It's like, oh, I just need to eat, right? There's two very big differences there. So let's talk about stress and the craving cycle. So first, we're going to see cortisol released, right? You experience a stressful situation, whether that's a car accident, an injury, maybe it's, you're under eating, over exercising, you're go, just lots of stress in your life, right? And your body is going to then release cortisol, a hormone that is designed to help you respond to perceived threats. In small doses, this is good because it's going to provide you with focus and energy to, fight the bear, run away from the bear, do what needs to get done. However, that's not typically how our society is anymore, right? We are in this constant state of high cortisol where we are just constantly stressed out with deadlines and finances and grief and taking care of sick parents. And we've got responsibilities at home and bills to pay and we're not getting enough sleep and we're over exercising. We're under eating. We're not having carbohydrates. We're having coffee on an empty stomach. We are driving our kids everywhere. We are go. And then someone asks you what's for dinner and it's just a lot. Right? We are just constantly in the state of stress. And our body is just like, we need energy. And this ends up triggering cravings for you, right? So cortisol ends up also interacting with our brain's reward system by increasing the desire for foods that are going to quickly release dopamine. So dopamine is the brain's feel-good neurotransmitter, that reward, that motivation. And it provides you with that pleasurable feeling, right? Especially when eating foods that are high in sugar or fat. So these foods are easy for the body to convert into energy, which is what your body's looking for when you're in this stress state, right? And in evolutionary terms, this helped us survive. We are not in those states anymore, right? We are in a state where we are just sitting on our phone, scrolling through social media, watching scary movies, watching the news, right? Where we're just sitting. We're not actually running away from danger, but our body doesn't know that. It perceives it all the same. So then we give into this craving, right? Dopamine is released. Feel good, pleasure, amazing. And then you have that temporarily mood improves, right? And you have that sense of relief and pleasure, like, oh, that was amazing. That hit the spot. Amazing. And this reinforces that behavior because dopamine reinforces behavior. You get rewarded, and so your body wants to do it again. So it's training your brain to reach for comfort foods whenever cortisol rises and stress is present, regardless if it's actually a stress and a threat that you need energy for or not. So then after dopamine fades, right, we had that dopamine rush of, oh, that feels so good. That was delicious. Amazing, pleasure, great. It starts to fade. But then cortisol's still high because we're still stressed out. We're still under eating. We're still over exercising. We're still not sleeping enough. We're still hyper reactive to deadlines and financial stress and people and constantly being offended and upset with people right on the internet and our kids and our family and all the things, right? So now our body's just like, okay, that didn't work. We need more. So now you have a more intense craving. And over time, your brain is starting to learn to anticipate that in order to have a dopamine hit as quickly as possible to counteract the stress, like we need to have those foods. So then you have this cycle where you're just constantly training your brain to like give into that thing when you're stressed out. And like dopamine is a very like, your body remembers, oh, I got a reward for this. I got a reward for this. I got a reward for this. This is like when your kids are learning to potty train and you give them a candy every time or whatever it is, right? They start to learn, if I do this, I get a reward. So then they want to go do that thing, or every time it happens, they're expecting that reward. Your brain is doing the exact same thing with stress, right? But like you don't realize how stressed out you are because you're like, I'm fine. I've been dealing with this for a long time. I'm managing it. It used to be worse. No, because since your estrogen levels declined, now you can handle a 5 out of 10 on the stress scale before these things start to happen and cortisol rises. Before it was a 9 out of 10. Now it's a 5 out of 10. So even though you haven't changed anything about the external stresses and what you're doing, internally what you can handle has changed. So now what you're doing versus what you can handle has changed. Okay? So we end up having this like negative feedback loop, right? Where we're stressed and eating and stressed and eating and stressed and eating, even though you think that you aren't stressed. So how can we help our body break this cycle? Because realistically, the key to breaking it is finding an alternative way to manage our stress so that we're not having cortisol come up as high. And then also, how are we satisfying dopamine, that reward that we're looking for, without relying on food? Those are the two main keys here. Okay. So number 1, boosting serotonin. There are 5 excellent points here. And if you do this, it'll also help the other ones, okay? So number 1 is incorporating tryptophan protein-rich foods. It's an amino acid. It's a precursor to serotonin. It's the flour to the cookies. You can't make the cookies without the flour, right? So foods that are rich in tryptophan are going to be high-protein foods like turkey, chicken, eggs, cheese, nuts, and seeds, particularly pumpkin seeds and sesame seeds, actually. So including these in your diet can naturally support your serotonin levels. It's also going to help with your blood sugar control, which is then going to avoid the blood sugar spike and drop, the energy crash, and another extra trigger for craving on top of the neurotransmitters. The next one is eating carbs with protein. Yes, pairing carbohydrates with the tryptophan-rich proteins will help improve serotonin production even more. So try pairing your lean meats or eggs or yogurt with whole grains and sweet potatoes and quinoa for a balanced boost. Okay, so fun fact here. Remember how I said cortisol can really affect our production of our neurotransmitters, of our hormones, our blood sugar control, all the things, the cravings, right? Skipping breakfast is going to continue to allow your cortisol to go higher throughout the day. It's highest in the morning. If you're having coffee on an empty stomach, it's going to increase even more. So you're already setting yourself up for failure. If you have a breakfast with protein and carbohydrates, that is going to increase your serotonin, which is already going to help. Plus, it's going to help stabilize your blood sugars so you're not having a blood sugar spike and drop and having more cravings in the day. It's also going to help keep your energy stable throughout the day as well. So breakfast with protein and carbohydrates is key. Then you can pair that with the next 2, regular exercise and sunlight exposure. So activities like walking, yoga, and gentle weight training can actually help boost your serotonin levels. So walking is amazing for this and can help stabilize your mood and your cravings. And sunlight exposure. So natural sunlight helps boost your serotonin, aiming for 15 to 30 minutes of direct sunlight every day, particularly in the morning, will help so much. It'll also help with your melatonin production, which will allow you to sleep better, which is going to help you with GABA, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So if you can have a solid breakfast, actually, hold on, I'm going to give you the next one, and then I'm going to talk about the morning routine to like really set yourself up for amazing serotonin levels to help you with not only your mood, but your cravings and appetite as well, which is all going to help you maintain your weight so much easier. So the last one here is mindfulness and meditation practice. So doing anything that calms you down, grounds you, slows down your breathing rate, slows down your heart rate is going to be phenomenal. So for me, what this looks like is I do prayer and devotional, reading the Bible every morning. That's my jam. It could be something totally different for you. But doing anything that helps you quiet the soul, quiet the mind, to ground yourself and bring your heart rate and breathing rate down is going to help reduce cortisol and allow you to improve your serotonin production. So an awesome morning routine would be doing like 5 to 10 minutes of something slow in the morning. So you're not just getting up and going, you're pressing snooze, 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 and then rushing the rest of the day. That's no bueno. So what you want to do is find 5 to 10 minutes, just slow down. Maybe it's writing in a gratitude journal. Maybe it's like a breathing meditation app. Maybe it's gentle yoga, just something really short, 5 to 10 minutes. You deserve 5 to 10 minutes to dedicate to your health. Then we're having a protein-rich breakfast paired with a carbohydrate of either whole grains, some potatoes, some quinoa, some rice. And then you're going to go for a 5 to 10 minute walk after your meal at some point. Try and get some sunlight in your eyes. Okay? That does not add that much extra time to your day. So my go-to breakfast, which I love and I have all of the time, is a breakfast bowl of some sort. And what it has in it completely depends on what my leftovers are. So it's always 2 eggs. If you want to add extra protein, you can add some egg whites. I always add in some extra protein, whether it's ground beef from tacos that we had, whether it's some chicken breast, maybe it's some pulled chicken breast or turkey or chicken sausage. Like there's so many options of like whatever I had for dinner the night before is going in my breakfast bowl. I usually top with Dijon mustard because I love it. It's my favorite condiment. And then whatever I have prepped from veggies the night before, if we did wraps, if we did salads, we always cut up extra tomatoes, extra peppers, extra onions, so that it's very easy to throw into a scramble. And then I have my carb afterwards or with it. So I might have some baby roasted potatoes from the night before. Maybe I'm having whole grain toast, that's also a good option. Maybe I'm having some oats, right? Maybe I'm adding some quinoa to my bowl. Like there's so many options. And if you have stuff made up the night before, it's so easy to pop into your meal and also very easy to track too. If you're someone who's tracking your calories. So I have that. I have my breakfast bowl with my carbohydrate. I try to get outside if I can. Not as good as now that it's wintertime and like minus 30 here. It is freezing, so I definitely don't go for morning walks as much anymore. But I do try to get my steps in. Do try to get outside in some capacity of some sort, whether it's like if I'm going to the gym, I'm going to park further away just to get some more sunlight in my eyes, get some fresh air. But those things are massive. And then for me, I also do my Bible reading, my daily devotional, journal a little bit. And that's for me, it's been such a game changer. I feel so much better. In the days that I don't do that and I feel rushed, my day just feels off. So that alone helps boost your serotonin so much, which will help you with your cravings, your energy, your mood. And again, when you're in a better mood, it's a lot easier to want to make healthier choices. When you're in a bad mood, a lot easier to just be like, screw it, I'll have pizza and donuts tonight. If you're in a good mood, it's a lot easier to want to have like a nice, well-balanced meal, right? So that's serotonin. Then we have dopamine. So this is another thing. Protein-rich foods high in tyrosine. Tyrosine is a thing that we need to make dopamine. So this is why having a high-protein diet is so important. So foods that are high in tyrosine are chicken, turkey, dairy products, eggs, beans, and soy products. Again, proteins. So including those in your meals can help support your dopamine production. So boom, protein supports serotonin and dopamine. The next one is setting and achieving small goals. Dopamine is released when we accomplish something. It's our reward, like, oh, I did it, I crushed it, amazing, helps keep you motivated. So breaking down larger goals into smaller ones is key because then it gives you a little boost every time you get to check it off. I'm that kind of person that everyone used to laugh at that like, oh, if I did laundry and it wasn't on my list, I write it down and I check it off. Why? Dopamine. Feels so good. Very satisfying. This is why doing things like mowing the lawn for some people is so satisfying and they feel so good. It's like, A, you're outside, but B, it's like you see the finished product. Motivating. Love that. Amazing, right? This is the same thing that keeps people who like cleaning and tidying. It's because of the dopamine hit that they get, right? They see the accomplishment. They feel good. They feel like they achieved something, right? So this is what we do with a lot of women in our coaching program is everyone has this big goal that they want to get to, 20 pounds, 30 pounds, a clothing size, whatever it is. We break it up into smaller things. We run habits with our coaching clients like every 2 to 3 weeks, and they run for 2 to 3 weeks. And we focus on a different habit, and this is why we do it. I don't think I've ever told them why we're doing it, but now you know, because most of the ladies listen to the podcast. But We get them to print off a habit tracker, or we put their habits in their coaching app for them to check off every day, because that hit of like seeing the accomplishment, like visually seeing that, is a little dopamine hit. And it makes you want to keep going. It's motivating and it makes you feel good. And shockingly, dopamine is what gives us cravings, right? If we don't have enough, you can actually like avoid having cravings by doing these things, like little checklists. It's amazing. Okay. The next thing is also cutting back on sugar and processed foods. So I'm not talking about sugar in terms of like a potato. I'm talking about the highly processed ones. Like I'm talking about chips and chocolate, ice cream, cupcakes, baking, all those things, right? Because those are going to give you a temporary dopamine spike. And ultimately, over time, if we go into those all the time, A, we're going to have blood sugar issues, but B, it's going to deplete our dopamine levels in the long run. It's going to disrupt our natural production. So by limiting those processed foods, it can really help stabilize your dopamine levels and reduce your cravings. So another reason to have whole foods, aside from the fact that they're super nutritious and good for you, and packed with so many benefits, it also helps you stabilize your dopamine production. And then lastly, you want to make sure you're adding in some dopamine boosting foods. So these are going to be foods that are rich in natural probiotics like yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, and anything that's going to support our gut health, because healthier gut means better dopamine production and better serotonin production. Also, incorporating foods that are high in antioxidants like berries, for example, can be really helpful because they reduce oxidative stress in our body, which can also have a negative impact on our dopamine. Okay, so for improving dopamine, I'm going to summarize that. Protein-rich foods that are high in tyrosine, set small achievable goals and check it off. Cut back on sugary processed foods, add dopamine boosting foods. Oh, and resistance training. Resistance training is massive. This is what helps people get going. Like it's hard to go to the gym and get started, but once you start building that as a habit, you feel accomplished. You get the dopamine hit every time you work out, which is awesome. And then, of course, our GABA levels. So GABA also has 5 areas that we can improve on. So number 1, magnesium. Magnesium is crucial. I cannot stress this enough for GABA production. Many women are deficient in magnesium. Cortisol depletes you of magnesium. So if you are someone who is stressed out and not sleeping enough and undereating and overexercising and dealing with grief and injury and finances and deadlines and family and all the things, get yourself some magnesium. Game changer. We highly recommend 40 milligrams at nighttime if you're going to supplement, but also incorporating magnesium-rich foods is essential. So leafy greens, nuts, seeds, avocados, and whole grains are all excellent sources of magnesium to incorporate. The next one is practicing deep breathing and relaxation techniques. So anything that is going to reduce stress and bring you into that rest and digest portion of your nervous system is going to allow GABA to increase. So that means reducing cortisol, basically. So anything that brings your heart rate and breathing rate down, whether that's a coloring book, and you also get the dopamine hit from like finishing a page. Maybe it's crossword puzzles, listening to specific music. Maybe it's being outside, drinking a cup of tea in the sunlight with your feet on the ground. Maybe it's cross-stitching, crocheting, knitting, reading a book, journaling, prayer, whatever that looks like, but you need to do something that actually brings your heart rate and breathing rate down. See, my issue, I can't read for relaxation because I get worked up. Because you know what I read about? Self-development and menopause. So this is what I read about 90% of the time. And I get worked up about it because I get so excited, but also I'm just like mad about the things that I read about menopause and people aren't like doing anything about it. So reading for me is not a relaxing technique. So you got to be paying attention to like what you're consuming as well. Okay, so anything that brings you into rest and digest and gets rid of cortisol, or lowers your cortisol levels, I should say, is going to help you with your GABA production. Then avoiding stimulants like caffeine and alcohol, because those are going to raise cortisol for you, right? And really interfere with GABA production, which can then increase cravings and disrupt sleep. So reducing or avoiding caffeine is massive. I typically don't recommend more than a cup a day, and avoiding any caffeine after like 12, 1 o'clock, because we see it does have a negative impact on hormones, which I'm going to touch on in a podcast in the future right away here. So stay tuned for that one. That's not to say you can't have coffee, because I will never give it up, but just kind of some guidelines to work around that. So reducing and avoiding caffeine and reducing alcohol or removing it completely can really help maintain calmness and improve sleep quality. It's not uncommon for women to really struggle with sleep and hot flashes with alcohol once their hormone levels start to decline. Getting enough sleep is key. GABA levels are actually replenished during deep sleep. So if you're never getting into deep sleep or not getting good quality sleep, you are going to struggle with like feeling calm and relaxed and also your cravings. Studies show that two groups, like the study I reference all the time, two groups, both in a deficit. The group that had less sleep lost less fat, lost more muscle, and struggled with their hunger hormones, their cravings, right? We also see that with the sleep too, you are typically going to eat more calories. Like for myself, if I get less than 6 hours of sleep, actually more like 6.5, I'm on average going to eat more 300 to 400 calories more in a day. And I figured this out through university. I used to track all my sleep and stuff. I still do. I have an Oura ring now, though I used to do it with a Fitbit. But very interesting to see how that impacts you. And then you're going to have more cravings. Cortisol is going to be higher, all of those things. And then the last one for GABA is eating GABA supportive foods. So these are foods that are high in glutamate. Okay. This is broccoli, spinach, brown rice, and lentils. They can all really help support GABA production, as well as fermented foods like kimchi, yogurt, and miso, which naturally contain GABA. So for GABA, that was magnesium-rich foods, focusing on de-stressing, slowing down heart rate and breathing rate, avoiding stimulants like caffeine and alcohol, getting enough sleep, and eating those GABA supportive foods. Then we also have additional tips for managing cravings in general. So hydrating regularly, not only does that help decrease inflammation and bring cortisol levels down, but a lot of times when we're dehydrated, it can mimic hunger and increase those cravings for you. So drink water consistently throughout the day to help mitigate that. Aiming for your body weight in pounds, divide that by 2. That's typically how many ounces you want to aim for in a day. Increase quickly so you're not stuck in the bathroom all day. The next one is mindful eating. So slowing down and eating your food without distractions. I cannot tell you what a big difference it is when I eat in front of a screen versus when I eat just sitting at the table and present. Very different. Plus, if you're actually slowing down, enjoying your food, savoring each bite, enjoying the company that you're with, you're actually going to help satisfy your brain's reward system and decrease dopamine that way. And it's also going to help you avoid overeating and control those cravings in general. So we also see if you're eating quite quickly and distracted that you are going to have more bloating throughout the day as well. So if you're someone who struggles with bloating, very big tip to follow here. Especially if you're someone who has bloating that goes on throughout the day, like you need to slow down to eat big time. Plan to balance your meals. So we want to have fiber. We want to have protein, 0.8 grams per pound of body weight or goal weight. I typically max women out about 150 grams, and you want to be aiming from whole foods. We're not getting it from keto brownies and high protein breads and all those things, the protein powders, the protein bars. We want to get it from whole foods, okay? The reason for this is they digest more slowly. You get more micronutrients, which helps support your body, like antioxidants, for example, which are going to help with your dopamine. But it helps keep you full longer, helps stabilize your blood sugars, helps you actually lose weight. And then, of course, engaging in hobbies and activities. So many of us gave up doing things that we loved when we started having kids, when we started getting busier, when we started getting older. And we need to regularly engage in activities that bring us joy, that challenge us, that's going to release that dopamine. So things like painting, gardening, learning a new skill, playing sports. Again, maybe it's the crocheting, the knitting, all those things, because they release dopamine when you see the end product and the progress that you're making. But also it helps you avoid having to rely on food for reward as opposed to activity, right? So this is one reason that I will never give up volleyball. Like I will play until I physically cannot play anymore because I love it. You feel so good after you get the dopamine from working out, like seeing the progressions of the scores, your team improving. Like it's so fun. Or when you see that you're getting better, or like, man, I played such good defense today. That was great, right? This is why I like pickleball. So great. New skill, activity. You get dopamine from like learning something new, feeling accomplished, but also from the activity that you're doing. And that also increases serotonin too. Plus pickleball, you're usually playing with other people, which is going to increase your oxytocin, which is also a feel-good hormone. And when we're feeling good, we're less likely to like indulge and like feel like in the emotional eating realm, right? But also to help combat cravings, you need to be eating enough food, because if you're under eating, you are always going to struggle. So if you're not eating regularly throughout the day, good luck. This is why we make all women who work with us start eating breakfast. No fasting for us. We have used fasting with maybe 2 to 3 women out of the thousands of women that we have coached now, because we know that fasting is like for very specific reasons for a short period of time. We need to make sure you're prioritizing protein. We need to make sure that you're getting your cortisol levels down in the morning. We want to bring those down so that you're not dealing with the blood sugar crashes, that we're not dealing with hormonal symptoms. We're not dealing with low thyroid function and muscle loss and poor energy and the cravings and the gut health issues and the more bloating and the liver health and all the things that we talk about. So having a breakfast, we talked about, if you have a breakfast that's high in protein, that's going to support your serotonin and your dopamine, right? You want to have carbohydrates in there. Getting your physical activity in, making sure you're getting sunlight, prioritizing your sleep, and eating whole foods, your probiotics, your prebiotics, making sure we're addressing your gut health. All of these things are going to make massive changes on your mood, on your cravings, on your inflammation, your blood sugar control, your cortisol levels, and then ultimately your ability to be able to lose weight. So it might feel like you don't have a strong enough willpower, but a lot of the time it's you're under eating and you're not doing the things that we listed here, right? So if you are struggling with this stuff and you have no idea where to start, you have no idea if you're eating enough protein, you have no idea if you're eating enough calories, we calculate those for free. Just book a consultation call. We don't talk about coaching unless you want to talk about coaching. We are there to help you figure out what you need to do to get to achieve the results that you want to achieve, how to get there, and then support you with that, right? Like that is the purpose. If you want to talk about coaching, cool. If you don't want to talk about coaching, we won't bring it up. This is solely to help you figure out where you need to go and how to get there. Because again, it's so hard to find the right advice for you. And we're going to ask you tons of questions on your energy, your sleep, your digestion, food quality, how much you're already eating. Are you fasting? What kind of stress are you going through? What does a typical day look like? What do your workouts look like? We are going to ask you a ton of questions, because figuring out how much you need to eat isn't just age, height, weight. Because all the things that I just listed off are going to impact how much energy does your body actually need to be supported and not feel stressed out, so you don't have cortisol raging rampantly, tanking all your hormones, all your neurotransmitters, affecting your blood sugar, resulting in muscle loss and your body fat percentage going up. So please book a consultation call. Let us help you. We love it. It's our favorite thing to do. If you found this helpful and eye-opening, please share this with your friends. Help us reach as many women as possible. I love you so much. Thank you for tuning in, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.